Now let's go ahead and do this exact same thing for our Go button. Now if you move your Actions panel out of the way just a little bit, and you select the Go button directly on the stage, the Properties panel shows that we've assigned this an instance name of Go_BTN. Now we know exactly how to target this button from ActionScript and to assign it some commands. Move your Actions panel back so that you can see your timeline, and reselect the first keyframe of the Actions layer, where our other code already sits. We're going to do this exact same thing for our Go button so that we can restart the animation once it's stopped. For this, we first again need to create some type of a task, and that task is going to be responsible for playing our timeline or our main animation. Now, I usually like to keep all of my event handlers grouped together, and I like to keep all of my event listener assignments grouped together. So right underneath my existing event handler and above the add event listener line, I'm going to park my cursor and make a little bit of space so that the next event handler I create sits underneath the one I already have. Once again, our job is to create a named block of code in the form of a function. Let's go ahead and type the function keyword. We'll see again if we type this properly, it turns blue. So you want to make sure function is all lowercase. If you see this in black, it either means you've misspelled it or the casing is incorrect. So make sure to watch out for that. Make a space, and let's go ahead and assign this an arbitrary name. In this case, if it's going to restart our animation and move our car, it makes sense to give this the arbitrary name of move car. Again, you'll notice I use the same casing structure as I did in the stop car function above. Follow this with a set of empty parentheses and an empty set of curly braces. Now, the first thing we should always do is to figure out exactly what we want move car to do when and if it's called. In this case, it's going to be pretty much the polar opposite of stop car, which uses a stop action. In this case, we're going to use an opposite action to stop, which you may have already figured it out, is play. Go ahead and type the word play, followed by a set of parentheses and a semicolon. Now again, since moveCar is just not any old function, it's specifically an event handler, we need to flesh it out with a few required pieces of code. First, inside the parentheses after the words moveCar, go ahead and type E:event. This is a placeholder that catches any event information that comes in when and if this is fired off. We'll explain this again in a later chapter. And after the parentheses, we're going to let ActionScript know that this doesn't return any information by typing :void. So now we have a complete finished moveCar event handler, which is going to be responsible for playing or restarting this timeline if it's already stopped. All that's left to do is to make sure that we wire up that Go button on the stage so that when it's clicked, it calls our moveCar event handler. Underneath the last line in our script window, make a new line. Now we're going to target our Go button directly since that's going to be the object we want our user to click to fire this off. So again, we target it by its instance name by typing Go_BTN. Follow that with a period, and again, you're going to see that little code hint menu come up. And select the Add Event Listener function by double-clicking it right from the menu. As we saw in the line above, Add Event Listener requires two important pieces of information. The first is what type of event to look out for, or rather to tell the Go button to look out for. We're going to follow the same event that we did for our Stop button by telling it to look for a simple click. So we're going to type the word click, lowercase, in double quotes, and follow that with a comma since we have one more piece of info left. The next piece of information is the name of the response or the event handler it needs to carry out when and if that click does occur. In this case, that's our brand new moveCar function. So go ahead and type moveCar, exactly as it's spelled and cased at the top of the script window. The important thing to remember is everything we're creating here is call and response. It can be a little confusing because our responses actually sit at the top of the script window and the calls sit underneath. But again, it's the exact same premise. The calls are being established with Add Event Listener for specific button controls on our stage. The responses are being established a few lines above, and they tell our buttons exactly what should occur when and if they're clicked. Let's go ahead and test this out by going up to Control and choosing Test Movie. So here goes our C car round and round. If I click the Stop button, it stops. And let's go over and click that Go button. We should see the animation resume. So what's cool here is not only have we created a cool animation, but we've given our user the ultimate control over that animation. We've established controls in the form of button symbols, we've given them instance names so that we can target them from ActionScript, and we've set up a call and response using very specific events and event handlers for those buttons. Go ahead and close the Flash Player. Now, one more important thing worth mentioning is that if you happen to get some type of an error, for instance, if I go in here and I misspell something, for instance, instead of stop car, change this to stop cars, if I go to Control and choose Test Movie, in addition to your Flash Player window, which may not do exactly what it's supposed to, you may see hidden behind is the Compiler Errors window. Compiler errors will only appear if you've got some type of error in your code, and generally it's pretty descriptive about what the problem is. The important thing to remember is to find the line where the error occurs, go to the one or multiple listings you may have here, and double-click on it. It will open up the Actions panel and it'll highlight the exact line where the problem occurred. Here it highlights the line where I actually changed the name of my event handler to something that actually doesn't exist, which is stop cars, plural. To fix this, I simply need to go back and change it. However, you may get errors for a number of different reasons. If you do get an error, make sure, of course, to double-click that error in the Compiler Errors panel and check the line for any misspellings, miscasings. You also want to make sure that you haven't left off a semicolon at the end of the line. And another common mistake is actually to add characters that don't belong there. Sometimes people just randomly type a character at the end, and anything that ActionScript doesn't recognize will actually cause it to generate an error. So we want to make sure that we're pretty clean and we only type in the script window exactly what it is that we need. However, we've done great work here by hooking up two buttons and giving our user the ultimate control. From here, we're going to move ahead and try and carry out that same control a couple of timelines deep by targeting movie clip timelines instead.